and welcome to this week's episode of Soap Scoop. Now, we're going out on Friday tonight. As you can see, I am joined by the wonderful James Cartwright, who played Theo in Coronation Street, because we've just found out that Theo is the dead body in the big Whodunnit. So welcome, James. Thank you so much for joining us.
Gosh, he is no more. Celebrate. He's gone. God, wasn't he awful? What an awful, awful man.
It did feel like he had it coming. First question, how does it feel in Coronation Street terms to be brown bread?
Yeah, it's I join a long line of people who's met Corrie's own brand of justice, you know. It's a wonderful, wonderful place, and it's full of magic and mystery and fun and comedy. And it's like being on this it's like being at a fairground, and it's a gorgeous, beautiful experience. And I think ultimately, I know that, I mean, it was always going to be thus. I remember chatting to Kate Brooks, the magnificent producer, who Theo was all her doing, really. It was her vision, and she's wonderful, and her and Ian McLeod and Berity. And when we very first started, it was, she said, look, it's either going to be court or Corrie's own brand of justice. And then as it sort of went further on, it was decided, we sort of said, like, there's no need for another court case. Do you know what I mean? So that's off he goes, mate.
I was going to say, though, how do you think he would have coped on trial?
He could have potentially got off, but I just think with domestic violence, and as gritty as it was, is that the sort of feeling was, is there an appetite to relive it all when we've seen it?
Yeah,
As an audience.
right.
And I think court cases are only good as a device if there's like new evidence or a shocking witness. Everyone goes, somebody saw something, but actually it'd just be Todd saying what happened, Theo denying it, and then reliving all those awful sort of events, and it's been such a brilliant storyline, and that's what I get told in the street. But I think also it's quite brutal, and whether there's an appetite to relive that, while people are enjoying the corned beef ash, I don't know.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, because in court scenes, obviously, you just kind of replay all the events again. And then if Theo gets found not guilty, then it's frustrating for the viewer, and really he needs to be found guilty. So soap justice in the way that we've just seen happen tonight is another way to deal with him. It's been a secret for so long. How long have you known, and how hard has it been to keep it hidden?
Well, I've known 18 months ago. Yeah, no, so I've known a long, long time. And it's really funny. I've literally just been in Sainsbury's. Other supermarkets are available, but I've just been in the shop, and it's really, if I have a right nice time with the ladies in there, and they've all been going. I've been going, who do you think it is? And they're all, I think it's Megan, I think it's this, I think it's Carl. So it's really, what's been lovely about it is, and you don't get that with the court cases, it's really sort of tickled people's imaginations, and it's created a sort of a nice point of debate and chat. It's been a really exciting and thrilling thing. And a whodunit's really fun, I think. And then it only just starts because you've realised who's killed. But then the next stage of it is you're going, who's done it? Because now all we know now is who's deaded. But now we've got to who's done it.
I'm going to say, I'm not going to try and trip you up or get you to tell me, but do you know who's done it, and were you surprised?
I know exactly who's done it. And look, let's run through it. I mean, he's basically upset everybody in the street, hasn't he? So it could be Summer. Unlikely, but you never know. I killed her dad. I killed a vicar. I killed her dad. That's motivation. You've got George, because, Todd's like a son to him, I suppose. And, I've been rotten, and you've seen George punch me already.
That was amazing.
You've got maybe it could be Christine. I mean, Christine is a lunatic. Who else is that? I mean, it could be Todd himself. Just had enough. Could be Carl. Could be... There's many, many people it could be on that street, which I think is really exciting. They've set it up so big. They're so smart, the way they've done it. It's been such a pleasure. It's so clever that, first of all, there's been this big who dies, and then there's a who done it. So you get, there's two really exciting bits. And it's sort of, like I was saying before, it's creating public conversation. I think there's certain storylines that transcend soap in sort of like the soap watchers, and then it goes into the general public. A bit like a big sporting event, I'm not a football fan, but the World Cup or the Euro, it sort of transcends. And I think there's been an element of that where people, are all talking about who's done it and who's died. And it's really exciting, and I feel really honoured and privileged to have been a part of that,
Absolutely. And we had you on the podcast towards the end of last year, and you said then that Theo deserved a grisly death. So are you pleased that he got his comeuppance in the end?
Absolutely. You know, he's a monster. He's a monster, and he ran out of road. And the thing with soap is as well, you have a full town there, essentially, a full area of really talented actors. And the spotlight needs to move around the town. You know, it can't forever be on one story. That story's been told. There's nothing left. And because if it carries on, all that happens is you just end up repeating the same behaviors, but which is no, you know, it's not entertaining really for an audience. So yeah, I think it's time for it to move on. I think I'm glad he's had a grisly death. It's yeah, I mean, great. Let's kill him. Kill him.
Tell me, you mentioned obviously the moment that Theo killed Billy, and that was huge because, of course, we've had this awful domestic violence story, which I think is what the audience have really bought into. But it was the moment that he clipped Billy back into that seatbelt that everyone just went, whoa. What reaction did you get at the time?
Well, I mean, you know, it don't get any worse than killing a vicar, does it? You know, and I was raised a Catholic, so I mean, you know, my grandma alive, I'd be getting it, I'll tell you. It's yeah, it was a lot, and I think it's when people saw then that this was something more that, you know, he's killed someone. That's enormous, and you know, even with a sort of small knowledge of sort of like Greek tragedy or Shakespeare or something, when you kill someone, you've got to live with that, and that manifests inside you and behavior. And I do believe I don't believe Theo was ever a psychopath. I believe he was definitely a narcissist, maybe a sociopath at best, but I think he was a narcissist. And that was just a moment of madness. And then he had to live with it. Oh, yeah. I mean, people went, and, you know, Billy was much loved. Been in the
Yeah.
soap for 12, 13 years. You know, Danny Brocklebank, who played him, did a wonderful job. You know, it was there for a long time. And it was, you know, it wasn't ideal, you know, to come into the soap and kill off a loved character. But that said, it makes it juicy, right? And, you know, with a character, when you are a baddie, there is a finite amount of time you're in the soap. So you want to pack as much in as possible. And my experience, blimey, I mean, I've done a bit of everything really, you know. It's been a real privilege. It really has.
I know you said he wasn't a psychopath and it was a moment of madness of Billy, but given Theo's volatility, if he'd been allowed to carry on, do you think sooner or later he could have killed someone again, or even maybe even killed Todd?
I think absolutely. I think the way it was going, particularly this last month of episodes, getting more and more unhinged, more and more sort of loose. I mean, there was the scene, isn't there, where he tells Summer that he killed Billy in the shop. Ah, there you are, you know, and all that sort of thing. So he's getting more and more unhinged. He's getting more desperate. And I think, like any dangerous person, you don't want to back them into a corner, you know.
Yeah.
One, and he could have killed someone else. And we don't want to kill anybody else. There's lovely characters on the street. We don't want anyone else going, you know.
Yeah, I mean, at the heart of it, of course, it was a domestic violence story, and you had so many, I mean, there's so many special treatments of it and episodes and different viewpoints. Talk to me, what's the hardest thing to film? Because you had some quite tough scenes.
Yeah, there was a lot of difficult stuff. I think it was, do you know, in a very, it's going to sound very perverse, but it was enjoyable. You know, it is
Mm.
really fun to have something to get into, you know, and although it's hard emotionally at times and on your body, and we were certainly very tired because there were a lot, but it's good because it were exciting stunts and fighting and fight directors, and you know, even like there were a lot to it as opposed to, I don't know, just being a milkman who, you know, potters about, you know, to be a strong flavor in the suit. I mean, like the two-hander rep, the behind closed door on hidden cameras was something that I particularly was sort of proud of, and I really enjoyed that because it was a very different way of working. That as an actor, you get so used to pretending that the cameras aren't there. So there's a camera that's through, and you know, there's a spark on his phone, and you know, there's all that, and you have to pretend it's not there and play a scene. But with that, they put the ceiling on the set, and everybody did leave. So it was
Right.
just me and Gareth in this place, and so that was really interesting. I really enjoyed that. Some of the scenes were very hard. It's never nice. Funnily enough, the physical stuff wasn't too bad. The shoving things and pouring things, because it's sort of silly in its way. It's horrible, but it's sort of silly. The thing that I'd really found incredibly hard was saying horrible things. I just didn't like
Yeah.
looking into, because you kind of know you're doing a stunt with a kebab or a bit of milk, or but the idea of looking in someone's eyes and saying like, I can't remember. I had a line once that was hard. I had to say something about somebody's disappointed, talking about his family and stuff. It was really hard. You're pathetic. To look in someone's eyes and say that's very, very tricky.
Yeah, and you are such a lovely, bubbly, vibrant character. So it's very clear that you're a good actor because
Oh,
you're nothing like Theo in real life. I've had the pleasure of talking to you a few times, and so have many of the team. And you really are a joy. So, talk to me about working with Gareth behind the scenes when you weren't doing that really hard stuff. Like, were you able to switch off and be mates?
Oh yeah, you've got to. You've got to be able to. As soon as they call cut, you've got to be able to laugh and make a joke, or because otherwise it'd just be too much. So it's been a wonderful journey. We've got a wonderful shorthand in working together, and it becomes a bit like dance partners, or two, I don't know, two boxers, if you will, or whatever it is. You find a way, and you understand each other when you're sparring, and it was it was great, and I think it was wonderful to be able to tell that story with him.
What do you hope for Todd as a character? Do you hope that he can heal from this and go on and find happiness and love again? Or I suppose there's going to be a long journey for him in terms of reconciling with this situation that he was in.
Yeah, it's there's a long journey ahead. Yeah, he's broken, and he's absolutely smashed to bits, poor lad.
Mm.
So yeah, it's just whatever journey that takes. I mean, it'll be with him for a long, long time. How much of that they want to show, how much of an appetite there is to watch the rebuild, or whether there is, I don't know. But I think it'll be lovely to sort of see him get back to some semblance of strength,
Mm.
and find love again. He deserves love. He just picked a bad one, didn't he?
He
Just picked a
did.
bad one.
He thought,
We've all done it.
I mean, on the surface, he'd met this fit scaffolder and it was all lovely.
Stop, carry on.
But then obviously, but beneath it all, beneath the high vis, there was a monster. So,
Well, that's the title for the biography, Beneath the High Vis.
beneath the high vis. But you've had some great scenes as well. I mean, I wanted to ask you, who was your favourites, particularly towards the end of Theo's opponents? Because you had Gary Windass, you had Carl, you had George, who I think the nation actually cheered when he boshed Theo in the flat, faking his cramp.
It was great. I mean, like, I've had such, it's honestly, even with you saying that, I feel so privileged to have had that opportunity and to have been given the gift of having adversaries, and particularly with people like Mikey, who plays Gary. Me and him instantly were great, great friends all the way through it. And then he, one day he came in and went, "Have you read the latest scripts?" And I went, "Yeah." And he went, "I'm sorry, mate." And I went, "I know." And that was it. And from then on in, we were fold out all the time, All the same with, like, I love Johnny, who plays Carl. So me and him started together. There was me, Johnny, and Jason, who plays James. We all started together. So we've sort of been on this journey together. So for me and him at the end, which was really fun and fighting, and also he's so funny. We love each other. He's so hilarious. We were out having a pint in a pub, and a lady came up to me. She went, "Are you?" And I went in, and she went, "Is that?" And she went, "Are you having a pint together?" But we're dear friends, and all of that's been really, really great. And I loved all of that. Is particularly the stuff with Carl was very, very funny. I thought really funny,
Yeah,
and
I
George
loved.
as well.
Yeah, I loved the stuff between Theo and Carl because Carl physically, aside from Kit, was probably the only person tall enough to actually stand up to Theo. So it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
almost like Carl was potentially that person that could maybe do something. But then the two of you had that great energy, especially at the start of the week we've just watched, almost like strangely flirting with each other. So it was.
I know. Also, there was that really funny scene that I thought Johnny did it so. I mean, he does everything so well. I love Johnny. He's great. Such a great man and a great actor and a great heart. But there was scene where he has to I'm talking to Miles, my son, he sort of goes, "Cooey," and all that, to upset. It's so funny. It just does it so well. All of it. Winding people up as he's got into that as Carl, hasn't he? And he does it so brilliantly. What
Yeah.
happens to Carl? I'm invested in all of it, by the way. So I'm deep, deep watching now. I just think it's such a brilliant time to be watching the show. It's so exciting. There's so much going on. There's drama, there's humor, and I think that's down to, as I've said before, Ian and Kate and Verity. I think the show's really in a purple patch. It's a really great, great watch. And it's up there competing with anything that's on TV, in my opinion.
Yeah. Do you think in another life, Carl and Theo could have had the fairy tale romance?
I think they could. Funnily enough, I could imagine that. I can imagine Carl and Theo getting together and being like, sort of rather tempestuous couple deeply in love, going back and forward. I mean, it's that would have been very funny. That's a really good idea. It would have been really
I think the thing for me is that like Carl is such an awful villain in his own right, a different villain to Theo, of course. But because he's up against Theo and Theo is so awful, he's kind of comes out smelling of roses in their fights, which is quite interesting. But he's awful. He's been, essentially stealing from his mother who is suffering from dementia. So that's a whole other ball game. But the two of you together was brilliant. I loved you and Gary. Gary's like the Batman of Weatherfield, where he just kind of
the sheriff. If you upset the sheriff, there's a point where he leads me into the police station, and when he was doing it, I was saying to him, "Come on, boy, don't mess around in my town, boy. Come on now, don't make me pull my trigger, boy. You get in there now." We're doing all like sheriff voices.
Amazing. I loved all of that. And yeah, you and George and even just some of the other interactions as well with Todd had so many people that loved him. So when they all finally came together and were standing up against Theo, I thought they were really powerful scenes. And you did a wonderful job because you made them hate you even more. So I think it was all also brilliant. I have to ask you, what are you going to take away from this Coronation Street experience? Because, you've done other things and this is just a step in your journey.
Yeah, it was it has been the most terrific experience. And I remember when we were first talking about it, and I used to speak to Kate Brooks on the phone, and because obviously, the content, I've only ever generally played nice characters. So this was the first time I was ever playing a horror. And she was like, "You'll be great. Honestly, you'll be great." I was like, "Oh, I don't know if I can do it," and all that sort of thing. And we talked about it. And in the end, she said, "Well, look, just, give me a call back, have a think." And about, I don't know, four phone calls maybe. And then the final one I phoned her, I says, "All right." I says, "I'll do it." I says, "But promise you'll look after me." She said, "I'll look after me." And all the way through, I cannot thank, Kate. And I never had any surprises. Every time he got worse, I always got called in. And I think like as an experience, I'll take away there's so much from it in terms of like, I've learned a lot. I've been in the orbit of some of the best people I've ever met, both in the cast, on the crew, as part of the team, just wonderful people who worked so hard on that show. If you won a competition, LJ, to be in Coronation Street, right?
Yeah.
It's everything you wish it would be. That's how great it is. It's everything you'd wish it would be. There's nothing where you go, like, it's wonderful, really wonderful. And I'll still never get over that feeling of that surreal, sort of dreamlike feeling of walking down Coronation Street. Sometimes when nobody's there and you go, "My word, like I'm in this."
Yeah.
Because my grandma used to watch it and my mum used to watch it and my sisters and, and you kind of go, "I'm there," and it's like being in a weird dream. The first time you go in the Rovers, I'd never been in there, but I knew where everything was. It's like a weird dream. I knew where the jukebox was and Betty's picture and, it's like, and the booths, I know there's 3 booths and I know where the pumps are and the bar. It's a wonderful, magical thing to have been a part of. And, I'm sort of very proud to have been given the opportunity to play that part. And I know it all sounds a bit cliche, but tell that story and all that sort of thing. It's been a real pleasure, it's something I'll certainly remember for the rest of my life,
Have you ever been in it before, just as a small part?
No, I've been up for it a few times, and there was a few different parts that we talked about that weren't quite right in terms of like, I think there was one part, there was Joel and different things. I nearly played Joel and stuff.
Oh, wow.
But it wasn't.
In the same way, you'd have been murdered.
Yeah, it wasn't quite right for me that, I wasn't sure about it. But it's been really what I think what I'm very proud of, and I think everybody should be who's been involved in it. I think it's been done really well, and continuing drama that soap it. So Corrie is essentially the never-ending story, right? It never ends. It's the never-ending story. And if you do a play, you know how it finishes. If you do a Netflix series, you've got 6 eps to tell it. So you're limited in what you can show and what you have to cut out because you need to keep it focused. But the best thing about something like Corrie with a story like this is it can show the minutiae. Sometimes it can show you being, mean watching TV, which is actually the truth of it, right? Is that you're sat with this abusive person. It doesn't all have to be the peaks. It can just be taking a bowl of crisps off someone and saying, "You look fat." Like, that's horrible. But if that was in a series or a play, you'd leave that out because, there's other things that you need to get to. So I think it's been great to be able to do all that. I've loved it. I've loved it all. And, if there's anyone out there who's thinking of having a crack at Corrie, do it. It'll be one of the great times of your life.
Yeah, no, I know just when I come to visit you up at the set and stuff, I've been up there a few times now since I've been doing this job, and the magic of that street is never lost on me. Like I have to get my photo taken outside the Rovers every single time. I've got about 10 of them out.
That's
They're
so lovely.
lucky, and it's the cobbles and also just all of you as a company. Like we work with the press teams very closely, and it's a very well-oiled machine, and you can tell that from the top down. So everything you're saying, I completely believe and understand. And I, you know, there are members of the team here, as awful as Theo has been, have said, "Oh, I'm going to miss him because he makes stuff happen, you know, in a terrible way." I know what you're saying. It's been a hard storyline, but there's an energy on screen to that storyline that has really kept it ticking over.
I've had a lot of that. Really funnily, I've had a lot of that of people coming up going, God, it's been, they say, well, really miss it. You know, it's been great. And he's a bastard, is this, but bloody hell, it's been good. I've had a lot of that, you know, which is really, really nice. And because you need big characters, you need people who are strong flavors in the soup, you know, to sort of, to keep it spicy. You need
Yeah.
characters to keep it spicy. And he's certainly done that. And as horrible as he's been and as difficult as it's been to watch, he's been very complicated as well, Theo. You know, he's not been he's been horrible, but he's a broken man. He's a homosexual homophobe. You know, like what a mad thing to be. You know,
Yeah.
loves men, hates men. It's been a
I,
really sort of complex thing.
I feel like as well there was the whole element of the conversion story that, you know, we could have dived into that even more. I mean, it was a cog in the big wheel of the whole thing, but you know, there was the conversion therapy played a huge part in the man that he's turned out to be.
Really complex man. Really, really complex man. The world is a better place with him being dead on the cobbles. But yeah, very, very complex man, you know. But what a great, what a great thing to have been able to explore. And I feel very, very lucky and blessed. And, you know, it's been a real, real great time.
What I will say is, of course, we are going to find out at some point who the killer is.
I know. I know.
I
Who do you
suspect.
think? Who do you think? Can I hold you to it? Can I ask you?
Do you know what? I wasn't adverse. For a long time in the office, we were saying that we thought it was Summer because
I see that.
she's got a great motive, but I also think it might be a little bit too obvious now because particularly in those last moments before Theo's death, there was a lot going on between them. So I think as a viewer, you've been reeled in to think that it might be Summer. But for a long
think
time,
she might be the red herring, or maybe that's just setting it up. That's the brilliance of it. You don't know.
but the brilliant thing is that there were 5 potential victims. Theo's the one that's dead. We've only just seen his body, so there's a lot more to find out, and the police are going to start investigating. What if Theo was like the wrong target? What if it was meant to be one of the others, and Theo?
I couldn't possibly say. Imagine if it wasn't meant to be Theo, or imagine if they didn't mean to kill him. Imagine if it was an accident, and you know, we're all presuming it's murder, but what if it was something else?
Well, depending on who it is, if it's someone that is if it's a big character on that street, there will be decision making for your bosses as to how long this person's allowed to stay around if they're a killer. So that's all to come. But when we find out, see, I don't think seeing you dead on the floor is the last we've seen of you, because knowing Coronation Street, there might be a flashback or two.
I could not possibly say, Elgay. I couldn't possibly say.
I think we're going to see you again as we finally learn who the killer is. So maybe this isn't goodbye. It's just au revoir for now.
I think we'll have to see what happened, right? How unsatisfactory, but not. I think there will be some flashbacks, and I think you will find out precisely what happened. But all of the part of the fun is the journey of that, and sort of like who's done. If there's so much, honestly, if you're watching Corrie and you're a fan of the soaps, which obviously you are, if you're watching the Inside Soap podcast, there is so much more to come. Keep watching. It gets juicier and juicier, and it's like a big bowling ball in a pond, and the ripples are just going out, and they're going out and out. It's going to affect everybody. Theo's death will affect everybody in a different way.
I wonder though, because the Undertakers has been struggling, and as much as they don't like Theo, will they take the opportunity to do his funeral just to get some cash?
I love the idea of George just sticking him with a sort of, you know, envelope opener and just stabbing him just quietly on his own.
I think.
Yeah, I don't know if George will do the funeral. You know, blimey.
I know, but they've been saying for ages we need to get some business, and now they've got a dead body.
Maybe that's George's motive. Maybe we're very quiet. Maybe that's the motive. No, there's another motive from George there.
We've solved it. There we go.
George and Christina needed the business. They've gone, listen, no one likes Theo.
Well, before we let you go, James, tell me what's next for you? Have you got any, are you going to have a rest because you've been very busy the last 18 months, or have you got other things in the pipeline? Where can we see you again?
Yeah, so I do a thing on the radio called The Archers, which is another soap. So yes, I've done that for 12 years. So they very kindly give me the time off to go and do this. But then I go back to Ambridge, where it's a much quieter pace. I think the most dramatic, I had the case of the missing bunting. I'm the village policeman. So it's high stakes there. It's a slightly different vibe than, domestic violence and murder. So although they did do a very good domestic violence storyline. But yeah, so I go back to that. And then I've just been asked to do a play, which is something I've always wanted to do, a Shakespeare play, to do the lead in that, which was something I wanted to do.
Lovely.
Yeah, so that's taken us to the end of the year.
When
But
can
nothing
you?
more compare, obviously, to the thrill and the glory of Coronation Street.
Well, we'll have to come and see you in this play, and we do often. Yeah, whenever anybody like Daniel Brockbank, we've spoken to a couple of times since he's left Corrie. We know we can feature it in the magazine and give it a good plug for you. So please let us know when you're going to be on.
See, it'd be enough, LJ. I'm not bothered about your press. I just come and hang out with you, mate.
Absolutely. Well, we've still later on in the year we'll have the Inside Soap Awards. I'll be amazed if Theo is not nominated for Best Villain. And well, thank you so much, James, for talking to me at Inside Soap and all of our listeners and viewers. You've been an absolute delight on Coronation Street, and I think we're going to miss Theo, even though he's been awful.
Oh, thank you. And may I just say thank you absolutely from the bottom of my heart to anyone who's given any time to watch anything I've done over the past 18 months and been a part of it. And also supporting the soap, it's television's in a point where it needs support and soap needs support. And you've got to forget, if you don't protect it and you don't invest in it, which I know millions and millions of people do, but do invest in it, tell your friends, watch it, follow it, because it's a bit like libraries. It's one of those things you just presume it's there. And then if you don't use it and watch it, it disappears. So do support it. And thank you. It's been a real, real pleasure to be a small brushstroke in the massive canvas of Coronation Street.
What a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, OJ.